All right, so for the final time, I'm going to be saying this. The 2025 NFL Draft is now officially in the books. Day 3 was last Saturday. This is probably the final episode that I'm going to be doing on the draft because obviously I understand that at the time I'm recording this, we are nearly a week forward from when the draft first started within the first round. And things are getting kind of old. Things are already being established, and a lot of stuff is starting to repeat itself. But I really wanted to go over this topic and this talent tree because, in my opinion, the cornerback class for the 2025 NFL Draft was absolutely stacked. If you watched my final 2025 NFL mock draft, I had, I believe, 4 or 5 corners going within the first round. Most of those corners, or if not all of those corners, you are going to see in this video with me discuss. It was just these types of corners just had so much skill to them. And I know that a lot of them have some glaring holes, which we are definitely going to point out. But the ceiling for a lot of these guys, I believe that in the future, there will at least be 2 or 3 of these corners that will likely be all pro potential cornerbacks, which is insane to say. If they could work out, if some of these guys can develop some of their holes, if some of them can recover from some of the injuries that they've suffered, a lot of these guys are going to be top heavy cornerbacks within the league. So I really wanted to go over it. So before I waste any more of your time, if you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, come on, what are you doing? Go ahead and follow us on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, where you will get to see all of my reactions to breaking news from the NFL and NBA, especially with the NBA playoffs continuing on and with the NBA draft coming up. You don't want to miss it. So go ahead, down to the description. All the ads are down there below. Go ahead and check us out. But without further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's get into this episode. And we start out right here with the man that has been behind me for like the last 3 minutes of this long introduction that I've had, and that's Travis Hunter. You really cannot start out a wide receiver or cornerback list without Travis Hunter. I understand, is he really going to play both ways? Whether you like it or not, Travis Hunter is going to play both ways in the league. Whether the Jags are going to start him off as their number 1 receiver and number 1 cornerback, and then potentially moving him around and maybe some nickel packages, getting him in the slot. He is, at least for the first year, going to try his best to play both ways in the league. Do I think it's going to work out? I'm completely skeptical. But just looking at Travis Hunter from a cornerback point of view, what do we have here as the number 2 overall pick in this draft? Well, you have, in my opinion, the dude who is the best cornerback in this draft. I think that was pretty much undisputed. The best player, the best wide receiver, and the best cornerback in this draft. And what you get with him is a guy that I think has a very big football IQ on that field. He is a very solid press man corner. He is going to be able to get up in front of you and be very aggressive with his hands. But he does not get himself into a lot of trouble with flags and pass interference and whatnot. He is going to work his best in man coverage. That's the best that we've seen him. He does a very great job at sticking to his man within man coverage. But I have also seen him use a lot of his football IQ within zone coverage in baiting the quarterback, backing off of his receiver, and then using that great athleticism to leap in front of the pass, challenge it, and either get a tip-off or, in a lot of instances, some interceptions. He's also, in my opinion, one of the more secure tacklers in this draft. We saw it, I believe, in that Baylor game in overtime on the goal line. The dude did a great job getting his shoulder down and being able to punch himself through that running back, secure tackling him, and even busting out that football. He rarely gets passed on, and when he does, he is able to wrap up and get those men down quickly. There have been some plays that you have seen that maybe concern you a little bit of him getting burnt on the vertical deep throws. But again, I think that that's really rare. A lot of it was against one of the better wide receivers within the Big 12. And, that does not consistently happen. A lot of it, I think, tends to happen a little bit on zone plays. He just plays a little bit too close and gets caught on the counter and is able to his man is able to get behind him. But even when he does get burnt, he does a solid job at recovering, at getting there, recovering, and at least being able to contest the pass. Sure, it ends up going for a score, but he's still able to get there. He's not 5-10 yards behind the receiver, which I think shows to his athleticism. So Travis Hunter overall was my number 1 player, number 1 corner in the draft. And for a Jacksonville team that I believe ranked 31st in pass defense that needed to upgrade, this is a guy like that you could put there. And even if the durability begins to shake a little bit, even if you need to slide him down the depth chart at one position. At his height, at I believe around 5'11", 6 feet tall, with his speed, he definitely has what it takes to play within that slot corner role. He would be great to have over the middle, baiting those cornerbacks in and playing with the middle linebacker over the middle. That could definitely cause some turnovers and some tip passes. Travis Hunter, man, he's a unicorn. He's a gem, and I really hope that he works out and is able to do all he can within the NFL, playing on both sides of the ball, because I think that he is capable and talented of doing it. Then it surprisingly took 18 picks for my Denver Broncos at pick 20 to pick Jahdae Barron out of Texas. Now, I've already talked about Barron a lot. If you haven't, go ahead and see my full first round analysis of the draft. Go ahead and see my live Broncos reaction to them picking Jahdae Barron. I'm not going to stick on this too long because I don't want to be repeating myself too much. But Barron, outside of Travis Hunter, was 100% my favorite all-around corner throughout the draft. I think he's the dude that fits the best in both man and zone coverage. He doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses when it comes to his coverage skills. The only real issue with him is he does sit at 5'11", and he had some trouble at times being physical at the line against taller receivers. But in a system like Denver where they have two shutdown corners on the boundary, he definitely is going to get his start within that nickel role, which I think is where he plays the best. The interesting thing about Jahdae Barron that I think, though, is that he plays his best within that slot corner role, but he's not necessarily the fastest or most athletic guy, especially out of this draft. I mean, I could argue a guy like Siobhan Raval Jr., who we're going to get to in just a little bit, is much more athletic than that of a Jahdae Barron. But Barron just does a much better job with his coverage skills, being able to stick against the opposing offensive guy. If there was a really glaring weakness to his game, it would definitely be the tackling game for him. And you're going to see that for a lot of these cornerbacks. They definitely do struggle a little bit with tackling, and Barron especially is not really able to get his head down very much. He's very, very aggressive and off balance when he goes to tackle. So he can get counter moved a lot and get blown past. So that's really, especially when you're a slot corner, that could be a big thing, especially when passes are being caught within the middle of the field. But when you have guys like Pat Surtain, you have Riley Moss, you have Brandon Jones, who was a really solid tackler. You have Talanoa Hufanga coming in. I mean, he's going to have all the right veterans behind him to just go out. And the important thing is despite his missing tackles, he was still making some big-time plays out there for Texas. He was relatively their number one cornerback. And when they need to look to him to shut down a corner or make a big-time play, Jahdae Barron was there. So a big-time playmaker here, somebody that I think is going to give Denver a lot of depth, especially if Surtain or Riley Moss end up getting hurt. Or even if Riley Moss begins to fall off a little bit. We saw him coming off of injury. He did not really look the same that he did in the early season. So if he falls off, Jahdae Barron, definitely somebody that you can go ahead and stick out there, at least for a couple of plays. And if not, him, coming behind as some depth on a couple of plays would definitely help out there. You could potentially even use his speed in a safety position. He can play all over. Very, very versatile. Very solid in coverage. I like this pick for Denver. Give yourself some depth. At first, I didn't really understand it because I didn't know that cornerback was that big time of a need for them. But getting him here, especially at pick 20, I think is really solid value for the Denver Broncos. Then you move to 10 picks later with Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky going to the Buffalo Bills. Now, Hairston was, once again, somebody that I did have going within the first round. I just felt like there were so many teams that really need a corner in this draft. And I felt that there were some teams that, passed on corners that it kind of was a mistake that you did. I look at a team like the San Francisco 49ers. When you just traded away your top cornerback, you really should need someone to fill in that gap. So I expected them to potentially go there at number 11, but they ended up going with the pass rusher and Michael Williams. Thought that was good value there for them. But enough about the 49ers. On to Maxwell Hairston, another guy that is pretty solid on both sides of the coverage. Definitely leans more towards the zone. I think that's where Kentucky really had him playing within their system. And when you take a look outside of this of what some of the notes that CBS definitely had on this guy, we take a look here. He was their third-ranked corner in this draft. Another big thing for him was he did only play 5 games during his senior season. He was very limited due to an injury that he had, and so you're really, really hoping that some of that athleticism does not drop off because of that injury. But the big thing for him was definitely that missed tackle rate at 27.3% within 2024. But the thing that I also ask myself right now is that he is going to be playing across from Christian Benford. And Benford, in my opinion, is still not at all looked at as a number one type corner within this league. And Maxwell Hairston definitely isn't either. I mean, he sits at about 5'11", Definitely has a lot skinnier, smaller of a frame, and is prototypical, I guess, a little bit for that number 2. Could play a little bit better there than maybe somebody like a Jahdae Barron. But again, it's not somebody that you're really going to look at as your number 1 overall corner just because that lack of size and lack of frame. So I'm really wondering here of how that translates to a Bills defense that already is really lacking a number 1 overall corner. But to go ahead with Maxwell Hairston a little bit further, again, really solid in both coverages, leans more towards the zone. But the dude is also just a big-time playmaker. I believe I saw 9 total interceptions for Kentucky. I mean, that is big time. This is a dude that is extremely aggressive, is a great playmaker, makes great plays on the ball, is able to see the field very, very clearly and be able to recover to get himself into the play and get himself involved in the pass game. This is a guy that's definitely going to do it for you. Solid athleticism, solid speed for you too. Again, I just don't know. I just think that he is very limited when it comes to potentially being a number 1 overall cornerback. Definitely suited more for the number 2, so that is a need that Buffalo is going to be able to fill. But a guy here, solid coverage skills, solid athleticism, just needs to learn to wrap up a little bit more on those tackles, needs to improve that tackle rate again. And you hope that the injury does not limit that athleticism anymore, and I hope that he comes back healthy. But corner was definitely a top need for the Buffalo Bills. They have lost a lot of talent over the past couple of years, whether it was losing guys like Tre'Davious White, losing their all-pro safety duo in I'm trying to remember, sorry guys, and Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde in that safety room. Guys like DeMar Hamlin coming off of his injury that he had a couple of years ago definitely have not played as high to their potential. So secondary was a big time need. Get you a shutdown cornerback. Maxwell Hairston is definitely somebody that could play that role on the weak side. Then you move to what, in my opinion, was the most surprising fall, one of the most surprising falls of this draft. And that was Will Johnson in round 2 at pick 47 to the Arizona Cardinals. Definitely think that the Cardinals got a big time steal here with Johnson. I had him, listed as a top 5, top 10 player within this draft. There were mock drafts, including ones that I had a couple of months ago that had him going within the top 5 to Jacksonville, who definitely was struggling with that pass defense at that number 5 overall pick. But Johnson ends up going from pick 5, sliding down 42 slots down to 47. And why? Why did that really happen? Well, it was mainly coming off of his injury. He had a really, really bad tear within his knee that pretty much kept him out all of his 2024-2025 season. I believe he only played like the first 2 or 3 games for Michigan, so there wasn't a lot of tape off of his final year at Michigan. It was really disappointing to have that happen and him still declaring for the draft, but still, this is a guy that I still look at as potentially a top 2, top 3 corner within this draft, especially if you excuse a guy like Travis Hunter. Definitely a guy that was hand in hand with Jahdae Barron, in my opinion. The dude is most solid in man. He is a super aggressive playmaker, as is a lot of these cornerbacks in this draft. He is very aggressive. He is a great press man corner. He sits at 6'2", so he has prototypical size for that number 1 cornerback role. He gets up, he's aggressive, in your face, is able to use the length of his arms to really push on you and get you onto that outside in an uncomfortable position. He is very aggressive on the ball when it goes up. He's able to high point it, get his hand on it, bat it down really easily. Some of the areas that he really struggled in was really zone, but I've also seen some tapes where he has shown some ability in zone. He's not a 100% liability within zone defense. He just tends to have some troubles in being able to push his man into the remaining defense, into the opposing corner, into the opposing safety. He tends to get lost a little bit in that area, but definitely still has some room to improve from there, but is not completely out of the mix when it comes to zone coverage. But again, the tackling is a big downside here for him. And when you look at his tape, he has a lot of the same weaknesses that the before mentioned Hairston and Barron have, where he's just simply off balance. He does not take the time to really set his feet, keep his feet square to his shoulders, and really just dive down with that shoulder first and being able to tackle his guy. He's very off balance, normally on one foot. He tries to really force for fumbles and turnovers a lot, which, you're looking for a guy to make plays and make those turnovers happen. But when you just need a secure tackler, whether it's a big-time throw or even behind the backfield and it's going to the corner, that matters. And so I'm really wondering of how he's going to be able to translate that. You would think that a lot of opposing offenses are going to target him, at least early on, with things like running back checkdowns, going to the outside, and being able to get past that first tackle from him and get into that middle area past the line of scrimmage. So that's definitely something that he's going to have to work on. But overall, The dude is amazing in man coverage. I think that this is really solid for Arizona, getting him across from Sean Murphy-Bunting. I had Arizona, I believe, going with him in a mock draft with their 16th overall pick. They end up getting Walter Nolan within the first round. Then they're able to slide back into the second round, middle second round especially, and get him at pick 47. Definitely was one of my biggest steals of the draft. Was very, very shocked when he slid back to the second round. Thought for sure he was going to be a guaranteed first round pick. Again, you're just hoping that the injury doesn't limit his athleticism. But other than that, if the dude can come back, even 95, 96, 97% off of his injury, the dude is going to be a problem. Sticks really well with the cornerback, doesn't get into a lot of trouble, is extremely aggressive, forces turnovers, forces plays. Will Johnson here at 47, man, big time steal. Then you don't have to go very far because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in round 2, 6 picks behind at pick 53, go Benjamin Harrison out of Notre Dame. And I really like this pick also for Tampa Bay. I believe that Benjamin Morrison was the only cornerback out of these 6 that I have. Is it 6 or 7 that I have? I'm going to go out of the 7 that I have that did not go within that first round. But interestingly, he's probably one of the more well-rounded guys in this draft. Sits at about 6 foot 193, as you see with that CBS has right here. And just take a look at some of the notes, and obviously I've watched film on him as well. Just the most well-suited, fluid guy when it comes to both coverages. He's very solid in man, very solid in zone. He doesn't have a lot of, big-time weaknesses when it comes to the coverages. I think that the big knack on him definitely is for creating turnovers. He's definitely more of your safe, solid corner that is going to be sticking in coverage, rather than guys like a Will Johnson, a Siobhan Reval, a Maxwell Hairston, who are actively looking for those plays. He's not really a big-time playmaker. He's really just going to be the guy who's going to be solid in coverage and is not going to let his man up. His speed is solid. It's not really elite speed, but he definitely does show a knack for being able to go out, right, and be able to recover and whatnot. So that is definitely evident. Overall, man, he's definitely the safest cornerback within this draft. Doesn't have a lot of issues with really wrapping up in the open field. Of course, there are some things like I think that his press coverage and man could definitely become better. He could definitely get more of an impact and be more vicious at the line, being able to press up and push his wide receiver to the outside of where he needs to be. But the dude is a guy, I mean, you see it here, Pro Bowl potential, pro comparison, Marshawn Lattimore. He has very, very high upside. When you have a guy like this who is so solid in all areas, it can only get up from there and improving him. Again, I think that you just need to be able to really look at him and be able to just improve him in all the spots, whereas you're filling in with weaknesses. I think that's really where you get. He's kind of baseline at everything, and so the question is, can you get him to the next level when it comes to tackling? There is maybe a weakness there for a little bit with filling in and run support. Can you get that better? He is solid within man and zone coverage, but there are times where the press man isn't as physical as you want to be. Can you get that to the next level, right? There's times where maybe you don't see him as a full impact in zone coverage. Can you get that to the next level? There's times where maybe he does have opportunities to create for turnovers, but he just doesn't go for it. Can you get that to the next level? Overall, he's a B in every category. The question is, can you get him to that A-star potential? But Benjamin Morrison at pick number 53, especially when you look at a team in the Buccaneers who are at the bottom when it comes to pass defense, 29th overall in passing defense. You put him alongside a guy like Jamal Dean, is definitely going to be somebody that is going to be able to play on that opposite side at that number 2 corner role, and is going to be able to play a big need in what is a defense that really needs a big-time X-factor identity. Maybe this is the guy that can go ahead and do it for you. Then again, you slide back to another guy not too far within round 2, and that's Trey Amos. It's either Amos or Amos. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right. Trey Amos out of Ole Miss at round 2, pick 61 for the Washington Commanders. Definitely like this pick for Washington. This was definitely one of their bigger needs. And what I've liked from the Commanders is they've actively been trying to fill this need, right? You drafted Trey Amos last year. You traded for Marshawn Lattimore at the trade deadline. And then you also drafted what's his name? Mitchell Santrill, I believe his name is. I know that his last name is Santrill. I don't remember his first name, to be completely honest with you. But what's nice about this with Trey Amos is, again, I'm going to leave this presentation for a second just so I can show you his vitals. is he is one of the bigger cornerbacks within this draft. He sits at about 6'1", 195 that CBS has him rated right here. And he's a guy that is going to be able to play opposite of Marshawn Lattimore. And the reason why I say that is helpful is because it's going to put Sandstrell in his more natural slot cornerback role. The reason why Sandstrell got burnt a lot is because he just really wasn't a big-time boundary corner. He didn't really have the prototypical size. He didn't really necessarily have really the most experience playing on the boundary. So now you put him where he's more experienced playing over the middle of the field in that slot corner, and you're able to put Trey Amos at 6'1" on that boundary with him and Marshawn Lattimore. Man, those are three corners right there that can make a big-time impact in their game. And when you look at Trey Amos, it's not just the size when it comes to his height. The dude has a much bigger, broad frame, much broader shoulders. He has longer arms and quality athleticism behind him. The dude can accelerate, really does a really great job at flipping his hips off of the line of scrimmage. If his opponent is hitting a crossing route, able to flip his hips, really get into his stride, and stay with that cornerback on his hip. Even when he gets beat, that athleticism really helps well because he has big time recovery speed. He's able to make ground up when is needed. I think that the big problem with him is that, once again, he's not reliable when he is tackling the ball. He is solid when it comes to his run support, but he is still very, very aggressive, especially within the passing game. His quickness does help him at times, but I also think that his quickness can sometimes make him off balance a little bit. And I also think that there are times down the field where he just gets beat a little bit too much, which leads to him kind of using those long arms to force penalties beyond the line of scrimmage, and also leads to him getting beat a little bit. Again, he has that prototypical speed to go out and recover off of it, but you don't want to see a corner just completely relying on it. You want him to be able to really stick to those routes, being able to get there. He has the acceleration and the athleticism. The question is on a down-to-down basis, can you consistently stay with the opposing wide receiver? And I think that that's going to be the real test for him. Some other things that they got gets grabby down the field. Tackling could use slight improvement. Mirroring, I think that we talked about all that. Ball skills are a plus. Again, I don't think CBS has it listed here as a strength. I don't think that he is big time in terms of guys like Will Johnson and Maxwell Hairston and whatnot, but he is definitely still very aggressive and has really good instincts down the field. So overall, just a solid corner. And again, I want to see this, and we're going to start from the top here a little bit before we get to the final one. It's something that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I mean, Will Johnson, pro comparison, Pat Surtain, Pro Bowl type potential. Jahdae Barron, Pro Bowl type potential. Martin Emerson is his pro comparison. Maxwell Hairston, Pro Bowl potential. We'll get to Javon Reval in just a second. Marshawn Lattimore for Benjamin Morrison, Pro Bowl type potential. Trey Amos, Pro Bowl type potential. And there are other guys within this draft that I'm not even going to be looking at, like Azrae Thomas, like Darian Porter, who I think are all guys that also potentially have Pro Bowl type potential. So you're seeing what I'm saying. This cornerback draft was just so solid. There was so much depth. And so many of these guys, I think it really cuts off at around, like Bilal Coleman from Western Michigan. But so many of these guys from Darian Porter up are going to be true number one starters, and they're just going to be really solid for so many teams. Speaking about number one corners, that leads us to our final guy of this cornerback class that I'm going to be talking about. And I really, really wish that I had a better picture of him. Eastern Carolina, please, please, please take more pictures of your athletes so that I can get a little bit clearer of a picture for him. But that is Javon Reval Jr. falling all the way down to round 3, pick 76. This was a guy that was very, very unknown when it came into this draft. And what I mean by that is there wasn't really a concrete area where he was really going to be picked. There were some drafts that had him going late first round to either the Packers or the Vikings. There were some drafts that had him, falling early to mid-second round. There were some drafts that also had him here where he's falling into the third round, potentially into the fourth. And most of that just comes off to, once again, the dude got injured very, very early within the season. I believe that he also had an ACL tear. I could be completely wrong about that. But I really, really encourage you guys to go out and look at some Javon Reval Jr. tapes at Eastern Carolina because the dude might be one of the funnest players to watch. If you take a look at CBS's vitals for him, they have him listed at 6'2". I've seen some sites that have him listed at around 6'3", 6'4". He is a big time size cornerback. He does his best job within man coverage in the vertical passing game down the field. And the reason that is the dude is a freak athlete. He can run, he can jump all over the place. I mean, he has some really great quickness on his hands, some solid athleticism. He rarely ever gets challenged because combining both his height, his vertical leap, and his longer arms, I mean, it's just a huge issue to really get balls over him in the vertical passing game. So that's where he did his best work. He is super raw, and I understand that, especially in more zone packages, he does tend to get lost a lot. And even in man coverages going across the field, he does tend to get burned. But with this prototypical size, with the speed that he has, granted, you're hoping that still the speed stays intact coming off of the injury. But this is a guy that is just aggressive. He's mean. He's big. It's really difficult to get the ball over him in the vertical passing game. He's very aggressive when it comes to trying to go out and make plays and forcing turnovers. He honestly reminds me a lot of Trayvon Diggs, somebody that maybe isn't the stickiest corner when it comes to sticking to his man in coverage, but is a dude that does a really great job being able to recover in coverage and also just force big-time turnovers. And with that prototypical size, the question for the Cowboys is, are they going to be able to just go out and develop him? And I think that it's going to be nice. I think that he is going to be available at the beginning of the season, but it'll be nice for him for a little bit to play behind guys like Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland, who I think fit more towards his play style. He'll be able to, kind of learn behind those guys a little bit more, and he won't have to start right away. So I think that is a positive of him not going, within the first, potentially even the second round, because, guys like Trey Amos, they're probably going to start right away. Benjamin Morrison, definitely going to start right away. Will Johnson, Maxwell Hairston, Jahdae Barron. Even though Barron is going to play in the slot, all of those guys are going to be playing immediately. But for a guy like Siobhan Raval, he's definitely going to be kept a little bit more in the background early on, play within that slot cornerback role. And I think that's just going to allow him to really fill the big-time holes in his game. But, dude, if he can work out, I mean, this is a guy that is all-pro worthy with his size, with his athleticism. I'm really excited to watch this guy play. He's so entertaining and fun to watch, the way he's able to really just hawk the ball. And when you take a look at it from CBS's point of view, again, they have very similar things: tall, long, and imposing outside corner with a frame that naturally stands out. Some of the weaknesses that he had is doesn't mirror very well against super quick receivers. Back pedal can get a little bit high. So all of that, but you look at the strengths. I mean, big time height and length, outstanding ball skills, serious downfield speed. He has the things that you can't teach. Like, you cannot teach size. You cannot teach this type of athleticism, but you can teach improving within these coverage skills and getting him all the way within the third round. Again, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but if the man just stays healthy, if he continues to just stay healthy, and if the speed is able to stay there, dude, I'm telling you, this guy is going to be special. And that is honestly all that I have for you guys today. A little bit of a shorter episode, which I'm kind of glad, because the past couple of episodes have been, 45, 50 minutes, an hour, even, nearly an hour and a half long. And I know that can be really grueling for you guys. So I'm glad that we're ending this video a little bit early, but let me know what you guys think. Who were some of your favorite cornerbacks in this draft? Who do you think was a reach? Who do you think was probably a potential steal? Who out of the 7 guys do you think is going to be the best? Who out of the guys that I didn't name do you think could potentially be a surprise? Again, guys like Darian Porter and whatnot, I think should definitely be big time on the lookout for you guys. But you have some real all-pro, Pro Bowl potential in this, and I can't wait to see these guys, these corners within the league. I was big on so many of them, and so it's nice to see them also go to teams that are really going to use them. They're not just going to put them in the background and use them as 4th or 5th time corners. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias. Again, all of those ads are going to be down below: TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, it's just helpful to see my instant reactions to so much news coming out when I can't put all of this information out into a podcast episode. And without further ado, guys, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your week, an amazing and safe weekend. And I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.